What's up, everybody? Selena here, Selena Pocket Crochet. It's Thursday. I've got some exciting news. I've got a free pattern that I've just posted over at the American Crochet Association. It's an oldie but a goodie. So I'm just here to give you guys all the details, all the links, all the information, all that jazz. And I just wanted to tell you guys a little bit about this pattern. So if you are watching live, come on over, say hey, say hello, tell me where you're viewing from. If you guys have any crochet questions in the meantime, go ahead and post them and I'll get to them after I go through a little bit of my spiel. All right. So if you guys want more details, pictures, yarn links, all of that stuff, just click on the link in the video description. It's going to take you to the Ruffled Shell Crochet Cowl. This is a pattern that I wrote. I was just looking at the listing. Gosh, I think it was like back in 2013. So I first published this pattern almost January 14th, 2013. So it's an oldie but a goodie. It's actually one that I wrote for a magazine a really long time ago. So I was all like, yay, I'm in a magazine. It was one of those kind of proud, exciting moments. I really love this pattern for quite a few reasons. And now it is free to view on the American Crochet Association site. You guys can get you can view the instructions for free when you click on the link in the video description, okay? Once you're there, you guys can also find a link to this pattern on Ravelry. It has been on Ravelry since January 14th, 2013. I recently had this pattern updated, so if you already own this pattern, if you've purchased it in the past, if you did so on Ravelry, then you guys did already get an automatic update for that pattern, okay? So a few cool things about this pattern. I know I don't have one right here with me, but again, click on the link in the video description. It's going to give you more details, okay? So I made this pattern in very short rows. So you are going to chain. It's not going to be very wide. Let me get the length. Hold on one second. It is 6 inches wide. And then there's a ruffle on this, and that's one of the cool things that I'm going to tell you guys about in just a second, okay? So it starts out as about 6 inches wide, and it does use the shell pattern. Now, maybe you're familiar with the shell pattern. You're like, that's old news. I really love the shell stitch. I really love that pattern because it's dense, so there's no holes in it. It can be a little thick. But because you're using the double crochet stitch with that, depending on the yarn that you use, it can be a really nice dense fabric, but with that shell stitch, not so dense that, you know, there's not really any movement. And so that's really great as a cowl. So, you know, you're not going to be wearing a cowl because, you know, you're not warm. So you're wearing that because you want to be warm. So that shell stitch really just highlights different yarn types and different yarn colors in a really beautiful way. And again, it's only 6 inches. So what's fun about that is that you've got your starting chain, and then it's just really quick and easy to kind of work back and forth in rows. So because it's worked in rows, the length is going to determine the size. So it is this long rectangle that you're creating. You wrap it around your neck, and then there are 2 buttons. And depending on where and how you button the cowl, there's lots of different styles that you can wear this in. So that's kind of fun. So as you're working this shell stitch, if you need any support, if you're new to crochet, or if you're just more, you know, visual, if you're trying to kind of teach yourself to read patterns and things like that, this pattern now comes with a chart, a stitch chart, and you can see the pattern in diagram form. So you can actually see what all of these stitches look like together. And that way, if you're just reading the instructions, or if you just kind of want to, you know, a little bit of help and support, if you need to see that in action, it does come with that. So you can get that detail as well. So, all right. So it is that beautiful shell stitch. Lots of fun to make. A great thing about this is that you guys can totally use scrap yarn. So this is not one of those complicated projects to where, you know, you have to go out and buy a certain yarn, or it's really difficult to find yarn. It's really one of those things that if you like the yarn, if you pick up the yarn and you're like, All right, it's not scratchy on my neck. It passes the neck test. This is going to be great to wear around my neck, and therefore it's going to be a great yarn to make this cowl with. So you can literally just kind of look through the yarn that you already have on hand, and even if it's not the exact same gauge size as the pattern calls for, you can go a little smaller or a little larger and really kind of create this or make it in that slightly different yarn, as long as it feels nice and as long as you have enough of it. It's, you know, you can really kind of get creative with what you already have on hand. So that's another nice plus to this. This is going to be a really good gift. Typically people, women, men, whoever wants to wear this. Typically this is one of those fun styles that, you know, it's crochet and yeah, it's a cowl, but you know, just the stitch pattern is really fun and interesting. The buttons are really fun and interesting. The ruffle is really fun and interesting. So it can be a great gift for people who like to wear accessories, who want to keep their neck warm and want something that's kind of no fuss, that stays in place, but you know, it's going to keep you a little warm. So it's a great item for all those reasons. Now, last but not least, what I want to tell you guys about this is that 10 years ago when Selena Baca wrote this pattern, I was really excited that I had just learned how to make a ruffle. And I am equally excited today. I still love crochet ruffles. I think that they're beautiful. And after I was updating this pattern to put on the site, I was like, man, I need to work some ruffles into some designs. I think that you can do a ruffle. I think that a ruffle can really be done in a timeless way. You know, there's probably some do's and some don'ts, but again, it's really just up to whatever you think looks good. So you do whatever you think looks good. But as I was looking at this pattern, I was remembering how much I liked ruffles and how excited I was to see it. So I would love putting a ruffle on any kind of border. If you've got a blanket and you just want a fun border, I'm going to give you some tips and tricks about borders in just a second. Maybe you're making pillow covers, like anything that you have that has an edging that you don't mind putting a little bit of fabric on. And by fabric, I mean, you know, it's got some heft to it and it does require quite a bit of yarn. Ruffles are yarn eaters. So if you're looking for something fun and different, but is no fuss, there's no complicated math or anything like that, you might want to try ruffle. Okay. So what I mean by that is that when I put this pattern together and I was testing out ruffles, at first I thought ruffles were going to be this complicated math equation. How do you work this up? But really, just to make a ruffle, you need a tall stitch. So I use double crochet. You could probably use half double, you could probably use triple, but again, it needs to be tall. That's my perception. If you know, there's probably lots of different ways you can make a ruffle, arguably speaking, and, you know, so you can really kind of have fun and play around with this. But I like to use a tall stitch. I use the double. So another thing is that the ruffle is created because the stitch ratio that you're applying is far more than the stitch ratio that it's being applied to. So let's look at this cowl, for example. This cowl is a rectangle. So you have row 1 and the last row, and then you've got the sides of the rows. So for that to work, let's just take either row 1 or the last row, for example. If there are 25 stitches, then to have a flat surface, you would have to put 25 stitches going across. If you put less, the fabric's going to pucker. If you put more, the fabric is going to ruffle. We want that ruffling. So what I did for this particular cowl was I first put a border of single crochet stitches going around the entire area of that cowl. So on the first row, on the last row, and on the sides of the rows. So after I put that single crochet border on, what that did was that kind of anchored the individual stitches. It created this really nice, tight round of work that I could then place my stitches in so that way you could really see the ruffle, and that ruffle would really be different and separate from that shell fabric that I was creating. So I will say that tip number 1 is you do need some kind of anchor for your ruffle, and that way you're not going to ruffle your fabric, unless you want your fabric ruffled in some way. Next, you need more stitches. So the abundance of stitches in those individual placements, that's what's going to force the stitches that you're creating to really ruffle and kind of fold on top of themselves. And that's what you're looking for. So because the cowl is kind of a small project, I only put 1 round of ruffle, but you could totally add more if you wanted to. But that's where it might get a little more complicated in terms of, you know, you might need, depending on how many different rows you wanted, you know, if you want 3, 4, 5 rows of work, you might have to start incorporating, you know, even more stitches, right? You might have to kind of finagle a little bit. But if you're just adding 1, maybe 2 rounds of ruffle, this should work perfectly, especially with the taller stitch. So what I did was, instead of placing 1 double crochet stitch per stitch all the way around, I worked 3 double crochet stitches into each stitch around. So for example, let's say maybe my rectangle has 100 stitches going all the way around, equally speaking. So to create that ruffle, I placed 3 double crochet stitches in each one of those 100 all the way around, and that therefore I took those 100 spaces and then I created 300 double crochet stitches, and that's what gives this particular ruffle so much ruffliness. So anyway, it's a really simple technique, but that's the mindset behind it. It's something I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing on this cowl, so it's a really quick and easy project for you to try these different stitches, try that ruffle technique. And again, it's something that you can easily apply to so many other things in your life, and it doesn't even matter what it is. There's like, maybe you're making washcloths and you want to put a ruffle around it. Maybe you're making baskets for your plants and you want some kind of thing on it. So really, I think ruffles can work perfectly in so many different areas. So give it a try. All right, guys. That's all I have for you on this new pattern that is now free to view at the American Crochet Association, the Ruffled Shell Cowl. It does come in 3 different sizes. And when you click on the link in the video description, you guys can view that pattern for free on the American Crochet Association site. And you guys can also find links to either get that pattern on Ravelry or view other projects on Ravelry. So it's very well linked everywhere. So hopefully you guys enjoy. All right. Okay, let's see who's here. Let me give some shout outs before I say good day to you. Rosie is here. Deborah is here. Georgette is here. Jazz is here. Terry B. Hello, Terry. So good to see you. Hello, Rosie Maybe. So good to see you. Rachel Woodley is watching. Francis is here from New Jersey. Hello, Fran. So good to see you as always. Terry B says, love your hair today, Selena. I got it cut and I got my roots less gray. So I'm pretty excited about my hair today too. Thank you. Let's see. Alyssa is here. Deborah Blackstone is here. Hello, hello. Val is watching. Christine is watching. Hello, Christine. Rhoda is here. Barbara Kelly. Christine says shells are beautiful. I 100% agree. Shells are probably one of my favorite fabrics to make in crochet. Once you get that foundation going, it's really just in basic form when you're working in rows. Shells are just a 2-row repeat. And what I love about shells is that it's really easy to see which repeat you're working on. You're either working a full shell on either side or you're working a half shell on either side. And then from there, it's just, okay, single crochet up here, shell down here, single crochet up here, shell down there. And if you've never worked a shell before and you're looking for a first project to try it out, this is a great one to try, because not only, again, does it come with that, the stitch diagram and key, it actually comes with the pattern diagram. So you can really see how those instructions look before you actually work it up, in case you need, okay? Terry Robbins, hello Terry Robbins. Pamela Stoll is here. Denise is here. Natalia, Beth Nelson, Elizabeth, Dee Dee Crawford, Nina Gomez, Angie Farrow, Cheryl Walker. All right, and that was it. Man, so many of you guys were here today. Thank you. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. All right, guys, be sure to click on that link. And if you dig the pattern and you want more people to know, because you're an awesome crochet person who likes to share things, feel free to tag a crochet friend in the comments or share this video in at least one place where you enjoy crochet if you think they'll enjoy it as well. All right. Have fun making that ruffled shell cowl. I certainly did. Again, it's an oldie but a goodie, and I'm really excited to share it with more people. So as you make this project, please be sure to share it in the groups that I have or on Ravelry. Okay. Peace, love, crochet, everybody. See you next time. Bye-bye.